Well, guys, this is not the video I want to be making right now. It is 2 in the morning, and I just kind of had to jump on it because couldn't sleep. So I just decided I was going to knock this out and get it done now. So let's go over it. So if my voice seems a little quiet, it's because I got kids sleeping. All right. So what we're going to be running down here is, more of the Shawn Bolz stuff, but there's more. So we've got confirmation from a former personal assistant. We got more information from John Doe. And then we have a thread from a friend of the personal assistant and more information from Will Matthews, who was a worship leader from Bethel. Actually, I lived with Will Matthews for a little bit, for a couple days. He was my roommate back at Bethel back in 2009, 2010. So we're gonna go through. And then I also know the John Doe that also knows this person and confirmed that she was a personal assistant. So there's that. Moving on to, so just to recap, we now have we have a personal assistant who's confirming all this to be true and confirming that Bethel knew all of this, and multiple leaders in the charismatic movement knew all this, and yet no one decided to speak out about any of this. And it gets worse. So moving on to the thread, Will Matthews here. He said, I waited a long time to share this story. I first suspected Shawn Bolz was lying back in early 2016. If you don't know Will Matthews, he wrote the song Hope's Anthem, Deep Cries Out. He led worship with Stephanie Gretzinger a lot. He was part of the Bethel music scene for a good while. Then he kind of left and had a little bit of a falling out with Bethel and no longer is affiliated with them. He said, I first suspected Shawn was lying back in early 2016. He told me in my face that Lou Engle asked him to prophesy. So we all know Lou Engle. He's the swaying fasting guy. So Lou Engle asked him to prophesy at the Call Azusa, but God told him no. So apparently Shawn told God no as far as prophesying goes at the Azusa Now event. Then several months later, he was on stage prophesying. So there's that. And then we have this thread. Now this is Noella. She is and she has a bit of a breakdown here. So Shawn Bolz, who rose to prominence for prophetic gifting and words of knowledge, has been outed as a faker. Bethel Church in Reading quietly banned him from their circles. They passed it on to their friends, but did not publicly call him out why. And she restamps the text, reference the timestamp. She says, the mark of a true shepherd, they care for the sheep. In fact, they lay down their lives for their sheep. But here we see the so-called global prophetic ministry and Shawn Bolz the deceiver were the protected priorities, not like the people of Jubilee who received a fake word from Shawn and almost was killed at the hands of her ex-abusive husband, which we've covered that a little bit. They also quietly banned sexual predator Bob Hartley to protect their own, but not the greater church. And she goes through reference of C.S. Lewis, which I think is pretty interesting. So we go down here. Bethel, Kris Vallotton, Danny Silk, you failed the church. Bethel is for Bethel and our friends. Got it? You are worried about hurting Shawn. Shawn is hurting Shawn. I've wondered, this is interesting, why Shawn has been so quiet about the IHOPKC and Mike Bickle scandal. The Bolz family grew up in KC, so if you don't know, IHOP is in Kansas City. Shawn has been connected to Paul Cain, Bob Jones, Mike Bickle, Rick Joyner, White Dove Ministries, Paul Keith Davis, and Jill Austin. If you guys don't know, Bob Jones was one of the Kansas City prophets, along with Mike Bickle, Rick Joyner's at Morning Star, all of which have had scandals. He was platformed in his teens because of his prophetic gifting. The KC prophets are in his DNA, and now we know what kind of men these are. He was surrounded by sick and broken men, but when we asked why is this quiet, he's basically saying none of his business. Shawn was in KC for decades, traveling with his teams, Paul Keith Davis, and developing his own ministry. I took a class where he shared wild stories about being teleported in his Toyota Highlander, seeing Jesus, his big toe, having God teleport his cell phone into his shirt pocket at the mall, and stories about his friends who had jewels given to her by God all the time, all of which just left me feeling agitated and not good enough, although his message was, this can happen to you too. And this is what the Bethel vibe happens. It's all these stories, testimonies, grandiose things, big things. But it's always, and you too can have this happen. So he became known for teaching people to hear God's voice and also for his words of knowledge, which he loved about Paul Cain. He has always had a heart for Hollywood and media and moved to California in 2000s. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. Yep, he did do that. And he started a church called E58 or Expressions 58. It's true. And Jennifer Toledo would come to Bethel, and they talked a lot about E58. That's when we started seeing him around the school. Incidentally, the church seems to have scrubbed all connections to Shawn Bolz on their church website, and no messages by him appear on their podcast, although they have still some videos on their YouTube page. He had a big prophetic story about being called to California, and the signs gave him. Yep, we heard that story a lot at school. He became more popular, often talking about how he got to meet people in the industry and coming on Christian TV. Side note about Daystar. Not worry about Daystar. In a now deleted X response, Shawn denied it. Oh, we'll go back here. Side note about Daystar. On a recently released recording, Joni cited Shawn as being one of the prophetic people who was very encouraging regarding her marriage to Doug Weiss. In a now deleted message, Shawn denies it. If someone got a screenshot, please share. So if you have screenshots of that, please share for her. On a side note, Jeremiah Johnson, who comes after the recording clip, is now being sued by his brother for defamation. Yet another prophet. So these prophets are dropping like flies, guys. It's left and right. And I mean, what else do we expect? This is what's going to happen, right? And I just a side note, I don't take joy in this. I know that all the people in these stories their lives are falling apart. And all these people who received words from these men and acted on them, their lives are falling apart. So this is not something I take joy in. This is sad. This is heartbreaking. So just please know that. Bolz married in his late 40s to Sherry and now has 2 daughters. In the last couple years, he unexpectedly moved out of California to Texas, reportedly because he was offered a deal too good to pass up for TBN. So watch out for TBN. He mentioned there was a lawsuit before he left California. I don't know if it had anything to do with it. He also has 2 podcasts where he offers commentary on culture and news, co-hosted by businessman Bob Hassan on marketplace topics. So then they talk about the data mining. I've also shared Wanda Alger's post, where she went back to her Facebook to compare a word she received from Shawn and found it correlated well to the information she made public. So this is more confirmation about the data mining. So recently, Shawn has stopped sharing prophetic words. Alan Elizabeth has shared that she was confronted by Shawn. She has confronted Shawn, Kris Vallotton, and said she confronted Shawn. The host of Minor Prophets said that Shawn has been confronted 4 times and he knows without repentance. Vallotton also said that he and Danny Silk notified Bolz's board and strongly recommended they removed him from ministry, and was baffled when they didn't. And I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, Shawn Bolz's board was him, his wife. I think Sean Foyt was on that board, if I remember correctly, and then one other person. So I'm not surprised they didn't remove him, because then they have to talk about why they removed him. They probably just scrubbed their hands clean of it. And then again, according to Valen's text, we know that also Ed DeSalvo, Cheon, Jairnott, the Bakers. It's Heidi Baker, not Jim Baker. So like I said, they all know Shawn is lying. Recently, several people taught in the proper response to sin. Matthew 18, yep, we know about that. People with public platforms must be rebuked publicly. They minister publicly. So I agree with her on this. It's terrible. It's heartbreaking. It's sad. It's just not what we want to see, right? That's where we're at. So last thing here, this is a clip from the John Doe. This is a Facebook comment, I believe, from the John Doe, or either that or someone who was working closely with Shawn. I'm blurring out some pictures and stuff, so you guys will be able to see that. Let's go over that. So, 100%, I was Shawn's personal assistant. After working for him, I knew the words of knowledge weren't real. FYI, I know Bethel leaders have been presented a packet of proof that the prophetic words were fake. Social media event pages created by host churches were one source. Was the main place he got info. Kris Vallotton flew to LA to confront Shawn about it, and some other things I won't mention here. Kris proposed to Shawn that he come to Reading, and he would assemble 200 random people that Shawn would have no knowledge of who would be in attendance and do prophetic words. Shawn refused. I could go on. Kris banned Shawn from speaking at Bethel and even had all of his books removed from their online store. However, when I asked Kris why he wouldn't release a public statement to warn the church of the fraudulent words of knowledge, he said it would be damaging to the prophetic movement. I wouldn't say all of this if I didn't have the receipts. I still have the texts. So yeah, this is our John Doe who's sending this message. Guys, this is bad. It's worse than we thought. It goes way deeper. If you were part of Shawn's ministry and if you received a word from Shawn, I'm just going to say right now, he's a false prophet. I should have been harder in my previous video. I know I was kind of pulling punches a little bit, but I don't know why I was doing that. I think it was just because I was in between things and my head wasn't in the right place, but he's 100% a false prophet. All right? Like, there's no way around that. He has hurt people. He has manipulated the emotions of people. He has blasphemed the name of God, and he's done it for profit. Scripture goes on and on about this, about people doing things for selfish gain. But even just that aside, the basic morality of all this, it's appalling. I can't even, the scale to which people have uprooted their lives on this man's prophetic words, saying that it's from God, is immeasurable. We don't know how many families have decided to move somewhere, how many marriages, like jubilees, have happened, where you have someone who's literally has their life on the line because someone like Shawn said you're being gifted jubilee to a man who was an abuser. We just don't know. And Bethel has to say something. Like, they have to come out and say something. They have to. I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know how they're going to make up for this. I don't know what the plan is here. But this, they got to do something. They have to. Because this is unacceptable on every level. There's just no other way around this. So I'll keep you guys updated as more things come out, and hopefully no more videos at 2 a.m. But it's just one of those things where I couldn't sleep. I was texting people back and forth. I was messaging people. I couldn't sleep. So I just decided I'm just going to do this video now, get it over with, record it, put it up. And, if, like I said, if you're in the comments, if you're a BSSM student, like I said, I'm working on a podcast called Back to Bethel, where I'm interviewing students that either had bad times at Bethel, or maybe their faith has changed. If this is one of those reasons that's happened, let me know. I'd be happy to talk to you about it. If you're someone who's moved on one of Shawn's prophetic words and your life has been changed, you want to talk about it, let me know. If you just need an ear to listen and help process, I've gone through this. I've gone through the deconstruction phase. I've been blindsided by the prophetic movement myself, and I've been thrown back again, guys. And you can retain your faith. Like, just, if anything, you can retain your faith. You don't have to lose your faith over this. And if you're feeling that way, please talk to me, because this is what I've been through. This is exactly what I've been through, and this is why I am so passionate about speaking out about this stuff, is because this ruined my faith. This movement ruined my faith. I became an atheist. By the grace of God, I came back to the faith, but I just don't want to see this happen to more people. And I'm afraid that it already is. So, all right, guys. If you're not subscribed, I appreciate a sub, because I was up at 2 a.m. And be blessed.